about to join Don Neuen, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio, and Denise Simon, host of the Denise Simon Experience, for a weekly situation report, or SITREP. 18 hours a day, Denise Simon lives her life as an Intel Analyst. 18 hours a day, Don Neuen lives his life in the world of rock and roll. 1 hour each day, Neuen receives a daily SITREP from Simon. Welcome to the Drive Time Situation Report. Fasten your seatbelt. You're now in Don Neuen's car, and he is calling in for his SITREP.
Hello?
What is happening, Denise?
You.
How you doing, girl?
All right, what about you?
Hammered, tired, clueless on what went on in the news today. Kind of the way I've been for the past 2 months since I'm in the middle of peak season. So it's been a long day. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm bringing you along for my ride home tonight after a long day at work. My name is Don Neuen. I'm the co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio, and I'd like to welcome you to my Drive Time Situation Report. It's a show that we air weekly, a conversation between my buddy, my Intel Analyst, my sister from another mister, Denise Simon, and myself on my drive home. I'm in my personal car, heading home after a long day at work. Denise is in her bunker down in Central Florida, and I'm calling into her for what we call a SITREP, or a situation report, in which she gives me an encapsulated version of everything she feels is important that happened today, possibly yesterday, and oftentimes what is going to happen tomorrow. And that is the reason that we timestamp this show every week. We want you to know when this conversation is taking place, because the show airs at different times on various networks, and we want you to see exactly how ahead of the curve Denise Simon is with her Intel Analyst work, as well as the situation report that she gives me. So welcome aboard, everybody. We're driving home, coming out of lovely Atlanta, heading to God's country, west of Atlanta, and you're coming along for the ride. Denise Simon, please timestamp the show as only you can do.
It is 9:19 p.m. on the 14th of August in the year of our Lord 2018.
And that would be Eastern time for all of those of you that are still stuck in California and can't get out of that S-hole of a country.
Wah.
Exactly. All right, Denise, I'm telling you, I had no time today to check anything. The last thing I saw, I think, last night was Tucker Carlson talking to somebody. Tucker's eyes crossed on him. Have you noticed that?
Not unless it's on certain subjects.
No, I don't mean that. I'm saying, watch him. His eyes just kind of cross every once in a while. Maybe
Okay.
He's trying to read a teleprompter that's too close to him. That could be the problem.
Could be.
All right, so what happened today in the lovely world of the United States of America and the lovely world we call Earth?
Amorosa.
All right, what's going on with her? Is she a fraud or is she legit?
God. I mean, she hit every single television network, every single one out there. And then when she wasn't on it, they were still talking about her. And because President Trump had to come out and congratulate his chief of staff, John Kelly, for firing that dog. Oh, God.
Trump called her a dog?
Yep.
Oh, that's going to go over well.
It didn't. So when Amorosa wasn't on their shows, they were talking about Amorosa and how Trump called her a dog.
Well, let me ask you something. Now, clearly, she's a human being. She's not a canine. But if we use the term dog in the kind of condescending sense of describing somebody like, oh, man, you're a real dog for doing that. in your opinion, is that an accurate description of her? Not necessarily classifying her in any type of a canine
here's my
category.
deal. Here's my deal. We all know that he likes to counterpunch on Twitter, and I'm okay with that. But the way you counterpunch can be much more effective than some of the tweets that he does send out. And this one was wrong because I came away with it today saying to myself, okay, a president, regardless of who it is, but a president, sitting president, has a task. One, to solve problems, and one, to avoid other ones. And this tweet today didn't do either. I mean, and he's making it hard for people that are in his camp that are supporting a lot of the things that he has done, a lot of his accomplishments, and high celebration of those. We are going to have to either just step over something like that and wave it off when the left won't let us, or we're going to have to dig down even deeper, attempting to excuse or justify something. And that one today, I can't do.
No, I agree. Let me ask you this about her. In your opinion, is she a fraud, or does she have any credibility?
Well, she didn't, going back to the TV show Apprentice. She didn't. She was a problem then. So she's always been a problem. So he invited a problem into this White House. He never should have invited that problem in the White House. He's always had to treat her. He's always had to treat her with kid gloves because she's vindictive. And obviously that bubbled to the surface. She is as vindictive. And here's the other thing. I decided to look today on who published her book, which is titled Unhinged. And the publisher is Simon & Schuster. Now, they're a fairly sizable publisher out there. And did Simon & Schuster look at, her script, and did they challenge her on any of the truths or non-truths in the book? We don't know the answer to that question. And even if they did ask, they were okay with publishing untruths because there's clearly some untruths in there. But here's the other thing, and I did not know this, but it began to make sense this afternoon, and that was that Simon & Schuster, as a publisher, is also owned by CBS. And yeah.
More incestuous relationship.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go back to her credibility here. There's an awful lot of people over the past, couple of weeks since she kind of bubbled to the surface on this thing, and became closer and closer to the surface, that are saying, including guys that, I'm not big fans of, like Frank Luntz, that she's off her rocker and flat out lying about these things.
Correct.
Do you believe that is the case? Do you think this is simply a book of lies in which she's trying to gain a moment of fame?
I'm certainly getting that sense. Now, I haven't read the book. I have no plans on reading the book. But I'm getting that sense, given her history. She runs hot and cold depending upon where she postures herself with publicity and opportunity. And she's always going to be a hanger-on to anybody that can elevate her status. And that's clearly what has happened here with Trump. I believe that, she probably caused some real problems in this White House that everybody felt like they had to handle her with kid gloves. Otherwise, they would be on the wrong end of vindictiveness. But it's really very curious on how she came to record the termination meeting that she had with General Kelly in the Situation Room. I'm not sure I understand why he terminated her in the Situation Room. Why not in her office or his office? It stands, we're told that it's because other people were going into her office and gathering up stuff and they escorted her out of the building. I don't know that to be true, but there's the White House is a very big place. He could have terminated her out on the front lawn or in the Rose Garden. And then, she apparently made some statements that I'd like to leave now. I'd like to go talk to somebody. And he said no, apparently, and that he was holding her against her will. And, so
I did not hear that at all in the recording that I heard.
No.
I heard Kelly being very matter of fact, very, very professional, but at the same time, somewhat evasive in any details regarding her termination, other than I believe it was something that had to do with lack of integrity or lack of compromised her integrity, if I'm something like that, and that if she wanted any more details, that there was a team of lawyers there that could speak with her, and then he would bring in the personnel department, the PR department.
I don't know about that part, but I would say this. Anybody who works in that White House works at the request and pleasure of the president, and they can be terminated on those very same, reasons or no reasons, just like James Comey said. They can terminate me for cause or no cause. And, I would have just said, Amorosa, today's your last day. We're gathering up your stuff. You need to stay here until such time your things are out in the driveway, and we'll escort you out of the building, and leave it at that. No reason, no nothing, blah, 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 blah. But apparently there's a non-disclosure agreement that she signed along with everybody else that works in this White House. The White House is considering contesting the non-disclosure. Whether that is legal or not, I don't know. I've not heard that many non-disclosures can necessarily be held up in a court. It's just kind of a scary legal tactic that is often used. So I don't know where we're going to go with this, except that the media, they're just not going to let it go for probably a week. So then that tells me that this White House needs to get something else in the pipeline that will change the headline pretty quickly to make, minimize Amorosa and make her just fade into the sand.
Right. Let me ask you this, and let's assume that this meeting did take place in the White House Situation Room, and that, in fact, the recording that we've heard snippets or all of is, in fact, a valid recording that took place in that Situation Room. I would assume that in itself, given the fact that I don't think anyone is allowed to walk in there with a cell phone or any type of recording device, that in itself would be a violation or potentially against the law.
There is no law, but there are signs posted all over the place. So she violated protocol, White House protocol. And those are there for the conditions of national security. So she violated that. But then she said something else that was really quite fascinating, that she got a call from the Mueller team, and she has been interviewed by the Mueller team. And I find that remarkable, because she's the only one that has said so. And she is the only one that has said so just in the last day or so, and not previously. So it's remarkable to me that nobody else in this White House, one, either knew about it or spoke about it. So I'm not convinced that she did have a confab with anybody on the Mueller team.
Well, do you think there's a chance that the word unhinged in the title of her book might actually apply to her?
Well, of course.
I mean, that she could be an absolute whack nut?
Well, she's all of that. She takes more management than probably anybody, maybe even Kim Jong-un.
Well, just based on, I've hired a lot of people over the past 3 decades, a lot of people. And just based on, her performance and her, limited track record in the past, dating back to the days of The Apprentice, I don't think this is somebody I would have hired. She seems like a troublemaker. Why the hell would you want to hire somebody?
Well, and I would say they knew that during The Apprentice. They knew that she was a troublemaker. I mean, it's on film, not when he just fired her on there, but they do all the backup stuff and where, these people are having meetings and how she goes off on other people on her team and whatnot. I mean, it's remarkable that he would have brought her in.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we've got more drama that's doing nothing but stagnating the progress of rebuilding America on many, many fronts. More ammo for the left-wing media, more drama, and just absolute
stupidness.
Waste. Yeah, a complete waste. Can we move away from her? And now, I mean, we've devoted 10 minutes to this imbecile. Is there any way that we could move away from her into a more relevant discussion about anything?
Yes, we need to talk about an 11-year-old boy. How about that?
Let's do it.
Well, there was somewhat of a hackers convention in Florida called DEF CON, and the hackers convention invited some young kids to this DEF CON thing, and they did a replica of the Florida voting system and said, hey, you kids, and interestingly enough, there were 35 of them, and we want you to hack into these websites, particularly on the swing states. So they started with Florida. And an 11-year-old boy, he won. He was the fastest one. He hacked into the website in 10 minutes. 11 years old.
Oh, my gosh. Well, that's discouraging to hear.
Well, I'm happy. Yes, it is discouraging, but I'm happy to hear that at least it shows the real vulnerabilities. And now that, there should be some embarrassments, because if it could a clone system was presented to these 35 kids and none of them were over 17, that, if they present those results to the other swing states, especially in swing states. So I would say that we are certainly addressing, when you get into the cyber realm, the Department of Homeland Security and FBI and outside organizations are working diligently to help these states understand their vulnerabilities, their digital poll books, their memory card readers, all of these kinds of things, what's inside the databases, how they report the voting results, this district or this poll is reported, you got 50% reporting, all those kinds of things. So they're looking at all of those components. And you even have some lawyers that are partly there. You've got some cyber professors and other experts that are part of all of this. So we have a very short window of time, however, Don, that I would say that these states, especially the swing states, have to nail down and firewall their systems.
I think so. Let me ask you this, Denise. Holy cow! Did you hear that go by?
I did.
That was a crotch rocket doing probably 110 miles an hour on 20 with rather thick traffic. All right, so hey, Denise, remember back, and it's clearly for both you and me, it's been a while. Remember back to when your boys were 11 years old. Now, I'm remembering back to when Parker and Lee, my two sons, were 11 years old. Do you see either one of your two boys hacking in to Florida's website or database or whatever they hacked into in like 10 minutes? Do you see, and we've got some bright children, no doubt about it. But do you see our kids doing that at 11 years old?
Well, mine, I'd have to go back a very long time.
Well, they didn't have computers back then. Okay. Could your kids have broken into the library at 11 years old?
They could maybe break into a library. That's not something.
I was kidding.
The best thing that my kids were doing at the time when they were in that age window was playing Mario Kart.
Exactly. All right. Here's the deal. We don't have a problem. We've got a failure. If you got an 11-year-old computer geek that's able to hack into Florida's system, that's not a problem.
That's a crisis.
A disaster and a failure. It's a crisis. And it also needs to be an offer of a career offer for that kid now.
Well, here's the
federal government.
Here's an interesting sentence in this report. The boy was the quickest of 35 children ages 6 to 17, quote, who all eventually hacked into copies of websites of 6 swing states during their 3-day DEF CON security convention. So they were able to hack into all of them. It wasn't just Florida.
And one of them was 6 years old?
Well, ages 6 to 17.
Well, if they all hacked in and they were age 6 to 16, you got a 6-year-old that's done this. That's even worse. No matter, let's say it took him an hour. Woo! That's scary. Holy cow.
So now the big question then becomes what? I don't even know what question to ask. Do they, because I mean, the federal government has given $350 million in a petty cash fund that these states can go, they don't even have to grant. I mean, they just have to say, I'm taking X dollars because this is what it's going to cost. And here's a receipt for the money I'm taking out to harden my systems. But then they go, okay, how do you know that you actually were effective in hardening your systems? You see what I'm saying? The job's not finished. Do we just scrap the whole electronic versions of databases and voting and reporting and all these things and go back to hard ballots? Then we go back to...
I don't have a problem. I do not have a problem with that.
Well, then we go back to hanging chads?
I'd rather have a hanging chad than a 6-year-old that can hack into a system.
I mean, I don't even know where to go with this. I've been thinking about it all day long. I mean, it is a terrifying crisis of the century, as I see it.
Yeah, it is. All right, well, we're going to have to go to break here in a second. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Drive Time Situation Report with the phenomenal Denise Simon, who is chock full of information. We're going to have more brought to you after this bottom of the hour break that we're forced to go to. Please take a moment on the break. If you don't mind, go visit her fantastic website, founderscode.com. Founderscode.com. You can sign up for her email notification, which will give you every one of her articles that she writes every day of the year practically. Denise, give us a tease. You got about 30 seconds. What are we going to talk about when we come back from break?
We're going to talk about Pennsylvania and the Catholic Church. This is a terrible, I watched a press conference today. This is a terrible, I mean, it's on the realm of, in fact, it's worse than the voting situation when it comes to the Catholic Church, especially with Pennsylvania being a sample of what is going on.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. We got more bad news coming back after the break. Stick with us. You're listening to the Drive Time Situation Report.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
Hi, thank you for listening. My name is Ron Phillips, and I'm the owner and operations manager of Talk America Radio. It is with great pride that I offer you this 24/7 stream of some of the finest talk radio programming in the country, but I need your support. We are a listener-supported network. That means we need your help to continue to offer the quality programming you're hearing right now. If you're able, please visit talkamericaradio.us and click the Support Us button. Your donation will go a long way in helping us continue to share the American voice. Thank you.
This is Denise Simon, host of the Denise Simon Experience. When I'm not debating with Donna Fiducia about politics, I listen to Cowboy Logic Radio. Why, you ask? Because outside of my blog, founderscode.com, and my own radio show, the Denise Simon Experience, Cowboy Logic is by far the most entertaining and informative radio show on planet Earth. Plus, Don makes me feel guilty if I don't listen to his radio show every week.
Hi, this is Donna Fiducia, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio. For 28 years, I was in the mainstream media, most recently as an anchor at the Fox News Channel. No more. Ladies and gentlemen, the mainstream media has completely failed the American people. Radio networks like Talk America Radio will not fail you. Radio shows like Cowboy Logic Radio will not fail you. Check out the entire roster of over 60 weekly radio shows by visiting talkamericaradio.us. That's talkamericaradio.us.
TalkAmericaRadio.us.
This is Denise Simon. 18 hours a day, I live in a world as an intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. What I find is reprehensible. What I find is terrifying. What I find is treasonous. 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 The mainstream media has completely failed the American people. 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 Join me for the Denise Simon Experience every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back after that massive 3-minute break that we all had to sit through. We appreciate you being patient. Welcome back to the Drive Time Situation Report with Denise Simon, and my name is Don Neuen. All right, Denise, so we're going to the state of Pennsylvania where we've got another crisis taking place. What's going on with this?
Harrisburg. The Office of the Attorney General issued the following statement. It is long past due for the Diocese of Harrisburg to make public the names of the predator priest within the Catholic Church. Their proclamations today only come after intense public pressure in the face of the imminent release of the grand jury report. The grand jury issued a report exposing decades, which comes out to 7 decades, by the way, of child abuse and cover-up. Per last week's Supreme Court order, the Office of the Attorney General has published an honest and comprehensive accounting of widespread sexual abuse by more than 300 priests in 6 Pennsylvania dioceses. To this point, the Diocese of Harrisburg has been adverse to transparency and has not been cooperative. A now public opinion by the judge supervising the grand jury last year made it clear that they sought to end the entire investigation. The true test of the diocese's commitment to victims of abuse and reforms within the church will be their actions following the release of the report, which has been consistently calling for the elimination and criminal statute of limitations and reforms to the civil statute to give all victims the opportunity to abstain in justice in a court of law, unquote. What that really means is of 300 priests just in 6 dioceses, only 2 can be prosecuted. All the others are past the statute of limitations. When these district attorneys in these investigations have called to lift these statutes of limitations on this, The Catholic Church has fought it tooth and nail. These files, by the way, go all the way to the Vatican. That has been confirmed. The Vatican has a blueprint to cover all of this up. There are at least 1,000 victims just in the state of Pennsylvania, Don.
All right, I don't even know what to say to something.
Well,
like
I don't
that.
either.
Now, let me ask you this. I'm not Catholic. And I don't think you are either, right?
No.
You're Episcopalian?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Do you feel that this type of horrific abuse to boys is because of the oath that priests take to remain celibate, or is it an opportunity that priests feel that they can, guys that want to go into this career, this profession, that it's an opportunity for them? I mean, this kind of stuff doesn't happen in any other profession that I'm aware of. I mean, the world I live in, you sure don't hear about this kind of stuff. So what do you think the reasoning is behind this massive amount of child abuse?
Well, look, I heard earlier that there are about 15,000 Catholic priests and archbishops and so forth across the United States. So when you got 300 of them, that's a small percentage. But even that is bad enough if you've got 1,000 victims. And it isn't just boys, by the way. There were some girls in there. And some of them there was one case where there were 4 daughters in one family, and they had all been abused. But, Don, here's the thing. This is just Pennsylvania. Let's not forget that Pope Francis, just a couple of months ago, I think maybe even 2 months ago, he had to accept the resignation of countless priests because of the same scandal, just from Chile to Argentina. Now,
that's what I'm saying, though, Denise. That's what I'm saying. I mean, and I'm not comparing the AIDS virus and the spreading of AIDS to Catholic priests, all right? But the analogy that I'm going to use is, there are certain professions where there's a much greater risk and occurrence of spreading the AIDS virus, whether it's a profession or a lifestyle, okay? Drug users, homosexuality, the porn industry, prostitution, that type of a profession lends itself to terrible things. Why is it that that a man of the cloth, as a priest, a Catholic priest, why is it that there is such a higher level, or why do you think there is such a higher level of this kind of criminal, obscene, disgusting activity taking place, especially out of a man of the cloth? And let me, before I forget about it, let me follow up with one other question. Are nuns found to be abusing this type of abusing children this way? Are there any nuns that are being reported?
I haven't seen anything on the nuns at all, but that doesn't mean it's not out there. But when it comes to these priests, you automatically, a fellow priest, if you've got even the archbishops or bishops or cardinals or whatever, they clearly know that there's some funky business going on in some of these dioceses. You can't help but know that, because I would tell you that these victims would go elsewhere to, some kind of confession, or they would escalate it up the church, up the rank and file of the church. So virtually the blueprint says there is no whistleblower. None. If there were whistleblowers, then Don, I would argue that you would have a lot less victims. You might still have some victims, but I mean, you would be firing and prosecuting some of these priests just left and right, and so be it. But it is in their canon. It's in their doctrine. Don't report any of this. None of it, ever. And if you have to pay people off, pay people off. That's the doctrine. Therein lies what I would say
is
the
doctrine is criminal.
Sure it is.
Well, let me ask you this. Are there any, are most of these priests that are committing these horrific acts against children, are these heterosexual priests or homosexual priests? Do we know?
I haven't read any of the files, so I can't answer that.
Okay. My gut is telling me that there are a lot of wonderful servants of God that are priests. There are a lot of them, far more than there are bad ones. But it's kind of pointing to me that this is a career and a profession that sexual deviance might move into because of being opportunistic sickos. Is that something that might be an accurate statement?
Yeah, I mean, they're enablers. The doctrine in the church has shown over 70 years that the church itself are enablers to this kind of behavior. And Pope after Pope, Vatican after Vatican, Archbishop, all the rest of them, every one of them have been enablers to this. So I don't believe that any of them have any innocence in any of this. They often, if one priest goes on vacation, somebody else steps into the church and takes his place, and they're roving priests. And so, there's chatter and there's rumors and there's this and there's that. So the conversations are out there, I would say, obviously worldwide. And
I would agree. And
so I would be telling, this Pope, hey, dude, here's the deal. You need to shut up about immigration. You need to shut up about climate change and shut up about all this other social justice nonsense. You've got a crisis on your hands way beyond money laundering and all the other kind of stuff that goes on. You better be handling this one because, Don, the truth of the matter is, one more, this is just one state. Just one. And what's fascinating is the grand jury, they didn't have to do this. You never hear from a grand jury, but the grand jury wanted their voices heard in this because of what they had to sit through. So they're the ones that called for the press conference today. And they're the ones that wanted all of this to go public. So I would say these files and the quantity were bad enough that we don't care if it brings down the entire Catholic Church globally. That's almost what I'm hearing here.
How much coverage by the media was this given?
I do know that Martha McCallum on Fox did probably a 15-20 minute segment on it on her show. Earlier in the day, Fox just did a snippet on it, kind of waiting for the press conference and the reports to actually come out. But I haven't looked at any of the other networks to be able to tell you.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Drive Time SITREP with Denise Simon. My name is Don Neuen. Once a week, we record this radio show as I'm driving home from work in my personal vehicle. I'm talking to you from my iPhone. Denise is in her bunker in Central Florida. And it's a recap of whatever happened today that Denise feels is important enough to educate me on. And the primary reason for that is all day long while she's deep in the weeds, digging through Intel and watching hearings and listening to audio and reading document after document after document. I'm sitting in my office in the world of rock and roll, and I don't have time to do this. So I am forever grateful for the amount of time that she gives me on my drive home to update me so that, first of all, I can appear to be a little more intelligent than I actually am, and that I can appear to be a little more ahead of the curve than I actually am. Because none of what she's talking about today was I aware of that was happening, because I didn't get a chance to check it all out. Denise, can you update me on what's going on with
New
the
Mexico
Manafort trial? No, Manafort. And then,
Manafort
and then,
trial. The defense rested. They didn't call a single witness, including Manafort himself. So the defense rested. There was nothing. It was kind of a surprise. But that's all we know right now. As soon as that happened, the media left. The judge asked, is there anybody else that needs to leave? And a couple of them said, yeah, we need to go too. And they said, okay, fine. And the gavel went down, and we don't know where we go from here.
What do you mean we don't know where we go from here? Isn't it time for the jury to go sit and deliberate?
Yeah, which I would say that, I'm sure that tomorrow they'll be brought back with some kind of instruction. But it was really rather stunning that the defense offered nothing today. Nothing.
Well, to coin a George W. Bush phrase or term, what do you think the strategery was behind that?
Well, either there's some kind of deal that maybe because of Strzok being officially fired, that may change some things up in the Mueller operation. I don't know. Or maybe that they've gone back to the judge, or having a meeting with the judge offline that says maybe we need to strike a deal. There could be, 2 or 3 options here, but it is really quite remarkable that, the defense had their moment and they just went, we're done.
Wow. When do you find out more about this?
I guess when I start getting some emails tomorrow from, the several of the legal websites that I get stuff from, and see what they have to offer. The National Law Journal, I subscribe to, so I get some interesting things over there, or law.com and practice and so forth. So we'll see what they necessarily come up with. I know that they've got people in that courtroom. So we shall see what happens tomorrow. It's remarkable.
You mentioned a minute ago that it might have something to do with Strzok. Expand on that a little bit.
Well, the media is reporting that the reason that Strzok was finally fired, not yesterday, meaning Monday, but he was actually fired on Friday, was because of his text messages. I'm not convinced of that. We don't know why the deputy director of the FBI, whose name is Bowditch, why he fired him. He actually went against the recommendations by the whatever protocol office they have at the FBI, who said that he ought to be suspended for 6 months and something. And Bowditch went, no, I'm not taking that. And he fired him. Something tells me that it had nothing to do with the text messages. I think it may have had something to do with whatever else. And I don't know what that whatever else is, but let's not forget that Horowitz, the inspector general, made a criminal referral of Strzok over to the Department of Justice. So that may have some kind of play in this particular thing, but I don't know. Having said that, something in my gut tells me it goes way beyond text messages on the reason he was terminated. In the meantime, what does he do? He creates himself a brand new Twitter account. And in this Twitter account, he follows all the normal leftist people, Ben Rhodes, John Brennan, all that whole crowd. But he doesn't follow. One of his people that he does not follow is James Comey. But he also announced that he had a GoFundMe account. And originally, I think he was looking for $150,000. And he got that. And then he upped it to $350,000. Well, 8,800 people in one day, donated to his GoFundMe account. And the last time I looked at it, Don, is at $327,000. So it's a pity party over there.
It's sickening is what it is.
Yeah, it's all of that.
Well, you know what this shows is that the country is truly divided. There is a hatred for Donald Trump like nothing that we have ever seen for an elected official, much less a president of the United States, ever in history, as far as I'm concerned. Just an absolute hatred, a seething hatred for that man.
Well, one of the people that he followed was actually Jim Carrey, who seems to be having fun in his non-screen time doing paintings. And he painted a picture of Trey Gowdy and titled the picture "Vile Insect." And so Peter Strzok actually saw that and clicked like on Jim Carrey's Twitter feed when he had this picture of Trey Gowdy titled "Vile Insect."
Yeah, lovely. Let me go back to Omarosa for a second.
Oh.
Any chance you think that she was a plant?
No.
Or that she was bought and paid for by the left?
Well, I don't think she was bought. I don't think she was bought.
And that the Trump administration may have figured that out?
I don't think she was necessarily bought and paid for, because it was only, like 2 or 3 weeks ago that she was saying, oh, he's very gracious and he's this and that. I mean, just all kinds of wonderful things about Trump.
Well, what better would a plant say if they're in there for potential nefarious actions or observing or gathering intel? I mean, if she became a plant, I would say, at the hands of CBS / the publisher, asking her to write the book and giving her probably some exceptional bonuses to do so, and then be prepared to be terminated. We don't know how much she got paid for the book. We don't know what kind of percentage she gets for selling whatever. I don't think she's going to meet all that, but apparently she's on this tour and showing up in these, various news studios doing these interviews, and apparently her book tour isn't going terribly well either. So, well, it doesn't appear she's got any credibility. That's a good thing. All right, we got about 5 minutes. What's going on? Did you say New Mexico or Mexico?
I did, because I need to give an update on this judge, this Sarah Bacchus judge, who, when it came to this family, after they got arrested, the 5 adults and the 11 kids, and then the one dead kid's body at 3 years old, the judge set bail at $25,000, and it was a signature bond. Hold
on. Go back. You got about 4 minutes now. Give us about 30 minutes as to what you're talking about, in case anybody doesn't know. Okay.
Well, we have this Islamic compound in a suburb of Taos, New Mexico, that had a wall of tires around it. And it was essentially a shooting school. And this man kidnapped his son from his family in Georgia, Jonesboro, Georgia. The family called the police. The police went to the FBI, blah, 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 blah. Well, he kidnapped the kid, took the kid to New Mexico because they were going to perform some kind of spiritual ritual exorcism to get this epilepsy out of this kid. Wouldn't give him any medicine. The kid died. In the meantime, the FBI knew about the place. The local police said, we're not getting any help from the FBI. So they decided, because of the complaints that they have from the landlord, that they were going to go in. So they went in there and found what they found, which was absolute disgusting squalor, no electricity. The kids were starving, blah, 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 blah. So they arrested everybody. Well, the one guy, he's actually still in jail, but they set a $25,000 signature bond on the others. Okay, so they're all walking around with ankle bracelets, and they're free to do whatever they want to do because the prosecution or the attorney or the AG or the prosecutor didn't make a case, according to the judge, that they should stay in jail until the time of trial, if for nothing else, under child abuse and potential murder, I might add, for the son. Well, if you look carefully, this judge, Sarah Bacchus, I decided to kind of go look her up. She was named judge by the governor. The judge is a Democrat. She was educated at the University of California. And when she got out of school, she went on to be the deputy free attorney. What do you call them? Whatever. She was the deputy pro bono attorney in San Francisco, and then the deputy attorney general in San Francisco. So that kind of tells you where her mind really is with all this thing. But the one wife, or alleged wife, or this other woman who is part of all of this, interestingly enough, ICE went and got her today because she's an illegal alien from Haiti.
It just gets nicer and nicer, doesn't it? Lovely.
You just can't make some of this stuff up.
Unbelievable.
And there's tunnels.
Unbelievable.
They actually put a robot into a tunnel, and the tunnel is huge, and the tunnel's got all kinds of weapons in it, stored food, bottles of water, and it goes on forever. So, I mean, it wasn't like this was just a one-off kind of thing where they were training these kids to be shooters to go shoot up a school, but there's books, there's videos, there's all these kinds of...
Islamic?
Yes.
Islamic, right?
Yes. And this cat, by the way, is the son of a radical imam in New York who gave testimony in support of the blind sheik, the first World Trade Center bomber.
Yeah. Now, is this homegrown Islamists, or is this are they from the Middle East?
Well, we don't know that all yet. You have to kind of dig, but we do know that at least one is an illegal immigrant from Haiti.
From Haiti. Gotcha. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to wrap things up here. You've been listening for the past hour to the Drive Time Situation Report. Again, I encourage you to go visit and subscribe to Denise Simon's website, founderscode.com. Check out her own radio show every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, The Denise Simon Experience. And you can catch my show along with my beautiful wife, Donna Fiducia, Cowboy Logic Radio, every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Denise, we're going to have to take it home. We're out of time, so I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye to everybody, and I'll let you say the God Bless America.
God bless America.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.